Well, there's a lot that's going on, and let me just tick off some of the issues. Yesterday, I was at a budget committee hearing. I'm a member of the budget committee with Tim Geithner, Secretary of the Treasury. And we had an interesting discussion, Republicans, Geithner, myself. And the point that I try to make is I get sick and tired of hearing right-wing Republicans claiming that they are the deficit hawks. And they claim they're the great deficit hawks because they are prepared to cut Social Security, cut Medicare, cut Medicaid, cut education, cut environmental protection, cut any and every program that benefits working families. That makes them a deficit hawk. But what I reminded them is these are the guys who voted for the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and forgot to pay for them. And that bill will end up running us somewhere around $3 trillion by the time we take care of the last veteran. That's not being a deficit hawk. These guys voted for huge tax breaks for the wealthiest people in this country. That's not being a deficit hawk. These are the guys who voted to deregulate Wall Street so that the crooks there can engage in all kinds of phony transactions, which resulted in the collapse of Wall Street and the recession and the significant decline of revenue. That's not being a deficit hawk. Voting not to have Medicare negotiate drug prices with the pharmaceutical industry and Medicare Part D is not being a deficit hawk. So I think, Tom, it's very important that we not give these guys the mantle of being deficit hawks. They're the ones, to a significant degree, who has caused the deficit problem. And now what they want to do, having caused the problem, is cut every single program for the elderly, the children, the middle class, the sick. And we got to stand up to them and not give them the mantle of being deficit hawks. So that's an issue. And the issue is that right now, when real unemployment is closer to 15% than it is to 8.2%, counting those who have given up looking for work and people who are working part-time, we need a massive jobs bill to put our people back to work. I am especially worried about our young workers, people who have graduated high school, finding it very, very hard to get a job. People who have graduated college, often in debt, finding it very, very hard to get a job. We need a massive jobs bill, and I think we can do that by rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure and by transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. Now, in that regard, there is a modest bill. There is a modest 2-year transportation bill that ironically was worked out between Barbara Boxer, one of the more progressive members of the Senate, and Jim Inhofe, the ranking member of the committee, one of the more right-wing members. But Inhofe understands the need for infrastructure. Now, that bill does not go anywhere near as far as we must go, but it is a start. And it would put a substantial number of people back to work, rebuilding roads, bridges, serious problem with bridges all over this country, paying attention to rail, and so forth and so on. Now, we will see if our right-wing Republican friends will allow us to pass something significant. What they did in the House is a total disaster, but we are working on at least a modest transportation bill to rebuild our infrastructure, to put people back to work. Another issue that I know the listeners are interested in is the issue of the payroll tax. Literally, I just came from voting on that a few minutes ago, and I don't even know the final result on that. We'll know it in a minute. I suspect it will pass. I voted no. And I voted no not because I don't understand that the middle class needs a tax break. We absolutely need a tax break to help the hard-pressed middle class so they can get that money, go out and spend it, and create some jobs. It's significant. But I thought it important to continue raising the issue of the danger of diverting, in total, hundreds of billions of dollars from the Social Security Trust Fund. So when you lower the payroll tax from 6.2 to 4.2, all you are doing at the moment is diverting huge amounts of money into the Social Security Trust Fund. Now, what the president says is that not to worry because the General Treasury is going to repay that money. And I hope he is right. Furthermore, what the White House is saying is this is the last time that they will do that. And I hope that they are right on that as well. But I worry you do that 2 years in a row, that the next time this issue comes up, you'll have a lot of folks, whether Republicans or Democrats, saying, if you don't vote to continue this, You're talking about a quote-unquote tax increase for the middle class, and you keep diverting huge sums of money away from the Social Security Trust Fund, which is something that the right wing, in fact, likes because it just undermines the future of Social Security. So middle class needs a tax break. We certainly need to extend unemployment benefits to long-term unemployed. We need to deal with this so-called doctor's fix for doctors' reimbursement rates for Medicare. But I voted no because I think it's important that we have to keep raising the issue. Social Security is of enormous consequence. We've got to strengthen it, not weaken it. Social Security hasn't contributed a nickel to the deficit. It has the $2.5 trillion in its trust fund, can pay out benefits for the next 25 years. We've got to keep it strong. I continue to work on another issue that I know many of our listeners are interested in. We've gotten remarkable response on our website, sanders.senate.gov, when we ask people how they feel about the Postal Service. And we've gotten just a very strong response from people who support the Postal Service, do not want to see it dismembered. As I think I've mentioned before, the Postmaster General had come up with a very draconian proposal of shutting down 3,700 rural post offices, cutting half of the processing plants in this country, slowing down mail delivery, ending Saturday mail, laying off a substantial number of postal workers over a period of time, over 200,000. Many of them are veterans. We have been working very, very hard on this issue, working both with the committee, and I have to say Majority Leader Reid has come into the picture here, is playing a good role in trying to protect the Postal Service, working with the Postmaster General, Donahoe, trying to get some movement there. And I think we may be making some progress here. The bottom line is we think for a bunch of reasons, not the least of which the Postal Service has been asked to come up with $5.5 billion for future retiree health benefits in a way that no other institution in this country has been forced to do. It is strong financially. They don't need to put more money into it. There are other ways that we can save money and keep the Postal Service strong. And that we're working hard on that issue. Last issue, there have been just some incredible attacks against women and the right of women to receive contraceptive service through their insurance programs. You're seeing a right-wing male chauvinism that really surprised me, that takes us back to where we were 30 or 40 years ago. And all of us have got to protect a woman's right, not only to choose, but to make sure that she gets the contraceptives that she needs.